was sitting at the back with Jim Fox of Coca-Cola. By the way, two things. I mean, firstly, congratulations to Jacob Patsy in Milnathorpe and to Joanna and Frank. I have never had the pleasure of being in their award-winning store, but I will do. I'll certainly get there, and I'll probably get to the ice cream counter as well. But I obviously know Mitchell's in Inverurie, which is an extraordinary store. So Jacob Patsy's must be an incredible store to put Mitchell's and the other finalists at the post. So well done to Joanna and Frank on their success as Store of the Year. But the other thing about being with Jim Fox, it reminded me of something that happened this summer. Before the referendum, actually, I was visiting Coca-Cola in East Kilbride to celebrate its 50th anniversary in East Kilbride. And we were going round, I was going around with John Brock, the CEO of Coca-Cola Enterprises, Inc. And we were going round East Kilbride, and we were being serenaded or taken round by John McCafferty, who was doing the audio and telling us all the ins and outs of the East Kilbride production lines. And East Kilbride, as you'll all know probably, they produce the commemorative bottles, the short-run commemorative bottles for Coca-Cola. So, for example, they've produced a fantastic, amazing Coca-Cola bottle for this year's homecoming, and the first tartan Coca-Cola bottle in history. They also produced the World Cup bottle for this year's World Cup in Brazil. And this is the way that McCafferty introduced the concept of the World Cup bottle. He said in his guided tour, he said, Scotland as a nation, after much deliberation, have decided not to compete in the World Cup in Brazil. However, such is the generosity of our spirit and the openness of our character, we have decided to produce the commemorative bottle for the entire planet. As we're going around listening to this extraordinary explanation of the narrow failure of Scotland to qualify for the World Cup, John Brock turned to me and said, "Is that right? You guys decided not to compete?" So I was thinking about that as I was looking at Hampden there. I was just trying to work out where they're putting the potatoes out there just now. But I certainly will tell Gordon Strachan, who has the team playing so well, that according to McCafferty, this is just a matter of deferred success, and we shall decide to compete in the European Championships upcoming. So thanks to Abdul Majid for inviting me to speak at the event. This is his first conference, I know, as president of the Scottish Grocers Federation. I also want to acknowledge the tireless work of John Drummond during his 9 years as Chief Executive. John, you've done more than I've done as First Minister, so you deserve every congratulations. And finally, I want to congratulate all the nominees and award winners from this afternoon. The Scottish Grocers Federation has existed for approximately 100 years, but its significance to Scottish society is much greater than longevity. Convenience stores today directly employ more than 41,000 people. They support many more jobs among local suppliers, contractors and other businesses, and of course there's a broader role. You help to underpin the prosperity, the well-being, the sustainability of communities across the country. And that broader role, that social contribution you make, is the major focus of my remarks this afternoon. And that's why I want to emphasise the Scottish Government's commitment to working in partnership with you, supporting this sector and responding to concerns. There was a good example of that responsiveness in July. Retailers have expressed concern to us about the condition of town centres across Scotland, so the Scottish Government and COSLA jointly agreed the Town Centre First principle. And that principle carried into practice means that local and national government are signed up to putting the health of town centres at the heart of decision making. For example, when choosing where to locate new public sector offices and services, to put the town centre as the first priority of location. And of course that generates footfall and it generates footprint and therefore generates business for local suppliers. It's a way in which public sector activity can support the private sector for a wider social benefit, maintaining the vitality, the vibrancy of our town centres. And it came about as a direct result of listening to concerns raised by retailers and others, and it's been welcomed, of course, by the Scottish Grocers Federation. Now, it's just one way in which we're supporting retailers. We have established the most competitive business tax environment anywhere in these islands. The small business bonus now benefits almost two-thirds of all retail premises in Scotland. I often wonder if sometimes my ambiguous relationship with some of our largest supermarkets is based on the fact that they don't qualify for the business bonus. And we've worked closely with the Scottish Grocers Federation on issues such as the carrier bag charge, which comes into effect next month, which will help to reduce litter and waste. And we value the fact that we cooperate well, even when we don't agree in terms of policy. A good example of that would be the display ban for tobacco products, which comes into force for small stores next April. The Federation has helped us draw up the guidance for the ban and is now playing an important role in preparing members for its implementation. It might be worth drawing a quick contrast between the Scottish Government's approach, our ongoing commitment to cooperation and consultation, and some of what we see sometimes from Westminster. For example, in April, the United Kingdom Government abolished the percentage threshold scheme. That move means that employers can no longer claim back any spending on statutory sick pay from the Department of Work and Pensions. It's an interesting example of how, for some businesses, apparently minor changes can have a major and adverse impact. It has led to significant new costs for some shops, yet it was introduced by the UK Government with no consultation, indeed virtually no scrutiny whatsoever. Now, there's an important point here. Following the referendum and the vow from Westminster parties that significant new further powers will be devolved to Scotland, there will be much discussion about how we create that powerhouse parliament at Holyrood, one with the ability to create jobs to build a fairer society. And I would strongly encourage the Scottish Grocers Federation to become involved in that discussion about the new powers that Scotland needs. However, one absolute commitment that this government can make is whatever the new powers the Scottish Parliament gains, we will continue to consult before we make any significant changes. We will pursue a partnership approach because it's by far the best way of meeting the long-term needs of government, businesses and consumers. Now, I want to focus today on two specific examples of partnership between the Scottish Government and the Scottish Grocers Federation. Since they're examples which I believe bring benefits to your businesses, will also help serve a much broader social purpose. Both relate to events, unconnected events over the summer. The first example was a slightly unusual one. On the 7th of August was actually the day I met Abdul John and John Lee, of course. That day, Russia announced a trade embargo on food products from European Union countries. That embargo, and by far the most significant food product affected, is Scottish mackerel. Around 1,000 jobs in Scotland are supported by catching and processing mackerel, many of my former constituents in Banff and Buchan in particular. And nearly 20% of the mackerel processed in Scotland is then exported to Russia, and so the embargo has the potential to have a serious impact on an important industry in Scotland. Because of that, the Scottish Government has launched a 5-point plan. I love it when plans have 5 points. It's very good. A 5-point plan to minimise the effect of the embargo. Two elements of that plan are to encourage greater domestic demand for mackerel among consumers and to increase sales to retailers. Often when you get a major economic shock, you can, if you apply yourself and apply your mind to it, come up with a significant economic opportunity. Back in 1990 or so, when the Berlin Wall fell, and about 95% of our pelagic stock used to go to what were called Klondikers, you might remember. They were East European, mostly East German, sometimes Russian factory ships, and virtually all of the mackerel and herring caught in Scotland in Scottish waters went to these factory ships. It wasn't processed in Scotland. And that market collapsed virtually overnight because the subsidies which had been allowing the Klondikers to ply their trade were withdrawn. And somebody started to look at the holes in the boats and other things as well and wonder whether or not they were seaworthy. So that trade virtually collapsed and was seen to be about to be a major disaster. And what happened in a very quick period of time, in the realization that pelagic fish was a major, important and healthy protein, it was a huge processing industry started in Scotland to process here what had previously been processed in the factory ships. Now, similarly, this 20% of the mackerel processed in that market being closed, of course, is a significant economic shock to the industry, but if it results in an improvement and enhancement of domestic demand for one of the healthiest proteins available, then the medium-term effect will be a significant advantage. So in our 5-point plan, 2 elements of the plan are to encourage greater domestic demand for mackerel among consumers and increase sales to retailers. It's not the sort of thing that government can do on its own. We need the support of partners. Seafish, the industry representative body, is playing an important part. Tomorrow, they are launching a major campaign to promote the health and nutritional benefits of seafood, particularly oily fish such as mackerel. And the Scottish Government welcomes the fact that over the last 2 months, the Scottish Grocers Federation, along with other retailers, have agreed to work with us by encouraging members to increase the range of mackerel on sale. So it's a good example of how joint working can help to turn a problem into an opportunity. You are helping to market healthy Scottish produce to new customers across the country, and we hope in doing so you'll support an important Scottish industry. You can help others while also helping yourselves. We see the same principle, the principle of enlightened self-interest, in the second example I want to talk about. In July and August, of course, Glasgow welcomed the world to the greatest Commonwealth Games ever held. Here at Hampden, the stadium staged 7 days of world-class athletics. And the Scottish Government has always been determined that one legacy of the Games will be that people are inspired to lead healthier, more active lives. And as part of that, we launched a Last Mile initiative, encouraging shops near to the Commonwealth Games venues to sign up to the Healthy Living programme, jointly funded by the Scottish Government and the Scottish Grocers Federation. 17 convenience stores signed up within a mile of this place. Across all of the Commonwealth Games sites, 89 stores joined. They've now become part of a wider programme which now includes 1,400 shops. Now, what's particularly significant about those 1,400 convenience stores is that more than 800, almost 60%, are based in the most deprived areas of Scotland. In fact, well over 90% of the stores are based in the most 33% of the deprived Scottish communities. Now, we know that more deprived communities are more likely to have low life expectancy and high instances of conditions such as heart disease, strokes and cancer. So if we can encourage people to eat more healthily, it's one way, just one way, in which we can start to reduce these inequalities and improve the well-being of people across the country. And that's exactly what the Healthy Living programme is designed to do. It makes it easier for people to make healthier choices. Now, often that means that stores do very, very simple things. For example, placing fruit and vegetables at the till points that have a big impact on the choices that people make. We know that this approach works. Sales of healthy products have consistently increased by 1/5 when they are marketed in this way. In one pilot project, when fruit was displayed at my convenience store tills, it sold as well as the sweets and crisps which had been put there previously. The Spar in Dalrymple, winner of this year's Healthy Living Award programme, is a good example of what can be achieved. It has shown an outstanding commitment to promoting fresh fruit, vegetables and a whole range of healthy options. Broadway convenience stores in Oxgangs in Edinburgh is another example. It's run by Dennis and Linda Williams, who are here today. Dennis and Linda, where are you? I'm really glad you've put your hands up. Why are you not sitting together? You know? Well, we won't go into that. Dennis and Linda, who really got on incredibly well, sometimes, who are here today, but often have the occasional disagreement, do, however, agree on the importance of promoting fresh fruit, vegetables, and a whole range of healthy options. Their store has been at the centre of its community for more than 30 years. It works hard to promote these options, not just through the produce it sells, but also by providing recipe cards, food tasting events, special promotions. It also works with Pentland Primary School to organise healthy eating projects. Now, these stores, these examples, provide important support for the local communities. And partly as a result of that, of course, the local communities reciprocate and support these stores. Now, the government's aspiration, actually Scotland's aspiration, is that these 2 stores and the 1,400 healthy living stores across Scotland can be part of a broader movement towards healthier eating. Over the summer, we published the consultation document, Being a Good Food Nation. well, it's a nice simple title anyway, but nonetheless, becoming a good food nation. And that consultation is open till the 17th of October, and we would encourage you to make your views known. The consultation made the point that Scotland's food and drink industry has a worldwide reputation for quality, but our diet has a reputation for unhealthiness. So let's just think about that for a second. There we are, promoting ourselves very successfully, because exports of Scottish food and drink have increased by almost 100% over the last 7 years, which is an extraordinary outcome. And by virtually universal acceptance, the quality of our food and drink products is the highest in the world, by virtually universal acceptance. We have food products, for example, Scottish beef just now, where the only limitation on it is to get enough to export, where we've got more demand than we have supply. And yet, despite that world reputation for quality, our own diet has a reputation for unhealthiness. I mean, that might be we're exporting all the good stuff and consuming all the rubbish, or it might just be that the healthy choices which we know we should be following are not being made conveniently and easily available to our consumers. So we want people in Scotland to take pride in the food we cook, we serve, we eat, not just the food we export. Achieving that vision requires a transformation in our relationship with food. It requires support across Scottish society, not just, of course, from retailers. Now, that's why we're appointing a food commission to lead that alliance for change. We're also going to identify and work with individuals and organisations and stores from all parts of Scotland. I can announce today that the first such partnership will be with this Scottish Grocers Federation, with more than 2,000 members serving people in every corner of Scotland. Ladies and gentlemen, that is something to be extremely proud of in your federation. You will be the first partner in this national alliance to transform Scotland's own consumption of our own quality food. We want to build on what's already been achieved through the Healthy Living programme, especially in these deprived communities in Scotland, to help people across the country to make healthier choices for themselves and their families. We want to work with you and other partners in making Scotland a good food nation. Ladies and gentlemen, this vision, like yours, is for convenience stores to be at the heart of the local community. We all know that local shops are often much more a place to buy bread and milk and a newspaper. They're much, much more than that. They provide opportunities for social connection, perhaps for older people in particular. They help people to find out what's going on in their area. They sustain, they strengthen local economies by working with local suppliers. And they can, as I've outlined, help promote the healthier Scotland we want to see. That's why I'm delighted to be here today. It's why I look forward to many more years of partnership between the Scottish Government and the Scottish Grocers Federation, a partnership which, in my estimation, will be good for convenience stores, good for their customers, and above all, good for communities across Scotland. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.